Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about a topic that might sound nuanced. It might sound like I'm overthinking this, but I'm really not. And I'm saying this as someone with many years in the iron game. Guys, I'm not like some young 30-year-old kid doing this. I've been doing this a long time. I keep up with all the various research these days on various pathologies, injuries, longevity. This is stuff I really care about because I'm setting serious goals. I'm sitting here trying to get my deadlift to 650, possibly 700. I mean, I'm sitting here saying, hey, I want to maybe have a 700 deadlift coming up at age 45. So I set very serious goals for myself. But I also care about doing this injury free. And this is something that trickles down to my clients, something that trickles down to my audience. And I think this is stuff that we have to be serious about. Because let's be honest here, guys, when you start talking about getting up past your 20s and you still want to move monstrously heavy weights and you want to be stacked and jacked, you damn well better care about injuries. You damn well better care about muscle balance. Because if you don't, it is going to come around and hurt you. It's not lifting heavy that's inherently dangerous. All right, it's actually possible for you to have a 700 plus pound deadlift for 25 years and not suffer major injuries. That's not the issue. It's a whole host of factors that contribute to injuries, and it's not necessarily because you're lifting heavy. But muscle imbalances will sure hurt you. And a lot of it has to do with not even the amount of weight we're moving, but the fact that certain imbalances will put joints into unfavorable angles. All right, we have to start looking at how does muscle balance and grip spacing and everything else over time affect how much space we have in the shoulder, how much space we have in that joint through certain movement patterns. Okay, because that's what affects things like impingement. And we have to give a shit about this stuff. Okay, I mean, if you want to have a big bench, big overhead press, a strong pull-up, as you get older, you damn well better care about shoulder impingement. You better care. And if you don't care, then best of luck to you. So let's get over and talk about this. Because when we start talking about horizontal versus vertical pulling, what a topic. Horizontal pulling, what do we mean? Generally, you think of as rowing motions, right? Rows. Vertical pulling is where you pull down or up. Lat pull downs, pull-ups, chin-ups, that's vertical pulling, right? Vertical relative to your torso angle or horizontal relative to your torso angle. In other words, is it going the same direction as your spine up and down? Or is it pulling at a 90-degree-ish angle towards your spine? Right? Does that make sense? And the reason this matters has nothing to do with lats. Guys will talk about silly stuff. Oh, lat width versus thickness. No, you grow your lats or you don't. And I'm not saying you can't hypothetically emphasize certain parts of the lats. But a lot of that thickness that you think of is coming from all the other muscles in your back. Like if you think of the whole upper half of your back, right, from the rib cage up, let's forget the rest of the back because that's important too. But let's just look at that. You know that's only about 50% lat, right? Look at my back there. How much of that you think is lat? About half. A lot of other smaller muscles, and those smaller muscles are what make you thick. They're what make you thick. They're also what make you strong. They also impact things like shoulder spacing on certain movements. So when I say that we need to have a balance here between horizontal versus vertical pulling, I'm not even necessarily talking about the beginner. Because I'll be honest with you, if you're not strong enough to do pull-ups or chin-ups and you don't already have traps, you don't have traps yet, I'm not even putting you on a chin-up. And we need to just forget that. You're talking about putting novices on a lat pull-down. No, I don't think so. This is not how you get strong. This is not how you get strong, and it's not how you get big safely. Because if we had to be biased in one direction, we need to be biased towards horizontal pulling. Okay, well, what's going to bias you real quick? You start letting novice lifters put their focus on pull downs or chin ups as a priority over horizontal pulling. They'll build their lats just fine with the horizontal pulling. Put them on rows. Put them on rows. Problem solved. They can work on chin-ups later. And I'm stating that as someone who thinks that we should be good at pull-ups and chin-ups. I think we should be. I mean, let's talk about strength balance. In a perfect world, we would be strong at horizontal and vertical pulling. We should have a base musculature built up on all the muscles involved in both. But if we talk about more muscle involvement, horizontal pulling brings more muscles into play into the table, and muscles that you need for injury prevention. Now, vertical pulling build more lat? Of course it does. In theory, but you can build massive lats without doing vertical pulling. Well, let's come over and be specific here. We need to prioritize horizontal pulling. We need to, because vertical pulling doesn't hit those other muscles as well. Vertical pulling sucks for your posterior deltoids. It sucks for some of your rotator cuff muscles, your rhomboids, your traps, all that stuff. You do understand pull-ups and chin-ups don't hit that particularly well. You can do tons of chin-ups and still be underdeveloped there. I had a muscle balance issue there last year. I'm having to bring it back up. I was doing 100 chin-ups while weighing 220 pounds. I was doing 100 chin-ups every day, 7 days a week. That means a minimum of 700 chin-ups. Usually wearing boots on top of it. So weighing 220, throwing on some work boots and doing them. Pretty good. Pretty decent. I can do dead hang chins with 100 pounds. I'm not weak at chin-ups or pull-ups. I did a lot of them. Started irritating my shoulders, and it's because it still left my posterior deltoids and some of the other surrounding musculature a little bit lagging behind. And it doesn't take a major weakness to create a problem. If those muscles start lagging behind and you do tons of pull-ups and chin-ups, you will start having issues. It's a very, very good chance of it. You'll start getting shoulder inflammation problems. You'll start getting problems with other movements. It'll create muscle imbalances that will make it hard. In my case, what do we see it manifested at? Difficulty locking out overhead. I couldn't take an empty barbell and lock it out at an overhead press because of the way it rolls your shoulders. It changes the spacing. Why? Because I did tons of overhead pressing and benching, also had strong anterior deltoids, weak posterior deltoids, while doing tons of pulling. What was the end result? Shoulder inflammation, range of motion problems. Even though I had those muscles strong, my lats and my front delts overpowered my upper back. Upper back wasn't weak, it was weak relative to them in terms of muscle balance. The end result, inflammation on my way to injury. That was the end result. What do we do about it? Prioritize the other. Now, does that mean a person has to do rows? Because someone will say, well, I know this lifter over here. I can think of someone right now. Doesn't really do rows, but they do endless amounts of pull-ups. They're amazing at pull-ups. I'm not going to name names, but I know at least one popular person out there who does that without shoulder issues, and he's in his 40s, and he is strong as hell. What else does he do? What else is he known for? Upper back and shoulder development. Right? You have a guy who routinely push presses over 300 pounds, does heavy behind the neck push presses, tons of high pulls, snatch grip high pulls. Okay, it's a little different. I mean, let's be realistic here. If a person has built a hell of a base with, say, some of the Olympic lifts, like you see me doing there, snatch grip high pulls, okay, you get up to where you can do snatch grip high pulls with 2 plates aside for reps. You can do power cleans. Now you do power cleans with two plates aside, and you don't want to row, probably just fine. You could do tons of pulls. You could make pull-ups your main upper back exercise at that point, or mid-back. It's perfectly fine at that point. Why? Because you're already building all that musculature. You have built an enormous base in the upper back and shoulders. You've already built it. You can get away with it. You'll probably be fine. But how many of the guys who are doing this and saying, well, I don't really want to do many rows, how many of them are religiously doing enormous amounts of snatch grip high pulls, or power cleans, or both, or snatches? How many of them have a very, very solid strength base on that? I don't mean, oh, they can do a couple cleans with 135. Very few of them. Now, if you're in that situation and you're prioritizing those lifts, we're getting a lot of the benefits that you would get out of the rowing. In that case, it's probably just fine. If you want to come in and do pull-ups like a beast and you're very specific in your grip and which ones you do to avoid shoulder issues, okay, fine. That person will actually be fine. In fact, that person will probably be a brutally strong beast. No issue with that. But if that's not what you're doing, you damn well need to be doing more rowing than pull-ups. You need to. You need to prioritize it. And probably start doing more of it with wide grip on top of it till you balance things out. Alright guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.